Ukraine responds and strikes military targets, and this is fair, I believe, at energy facilities that sell their energy resources. Russia sells its energy resources and then uses this money exclusively for war.
Ukrainian long-range strikes on Russia's oil infrastructure are beginning to have a serious impact, as one of the country's largest refineries has been forced to halt major operations. According to Reuters, the Kirishi oil refinery in Leningrad Oblast shut down its main crude processing unit, AVT-6, after a Ukrainian drone attack ignited a fire on October 4th. The facility, owned by Surgutneftgaz, is among Russia's key refining hubs, processing around 20 million tons of crude annually. Damage to the AVT-6 unit is expected to take at least a month to repair, during which the plant will operate at roughly 70% capacity using secondary processing units. The disruption adds new strain to a sector already reeling from months of Ukrainian strikes that have repeatedly targeted refineries, fuel depots, and energy terminals deep inside Russian territory. Russia is now facing a growing domestic fuel shortage, with output falling and prices surging across multiple regions. Several refineries, including those in Ryazan, Yaroslavl, and Bashkortostan, have also been hit in recent weeks, forcing Moscow to extend bans on fuel exports to stabilize supply. Ukraine's campaign of precision drone and missile attacks has become one of its most effective tools for eroding the Kremlin's war economy. Each refinery taken offline not only disrupts military logistics, but also cuts into the energy revenues funding Russia's invasion. As repair crews scramble and fires smolder, the toll of Ukraine's deep strikes is becoming unmistakable. Russia's vast energy network is no longer untouchable. We would gladly refrain from striking Russia and want the war to end, but the Russians don't want that. For now, said President Zelensky.
Ukraine does not kill civilians, does not hunt the enemy's civilian population, absolutely, but they must understand the cost of this. Ukraine responds and strikes military targets, and this is fair, I believe, at energy facilities that sell their energy resources. Russia sells its energy resources and then uses this money exclusively for war. Therefore, I believe that Ukraine is taking absolutely fair steps.
We would gladly not do this. We would gladly want there to be no war, but the Russians do not want this. For now.
And therefore, only pressure can stop this war. The pressure is multifaceted. The pressure from Western countries is not enough today. And unity in this pressure, I believe, is also lacking.
The Economist writes, about 60% of the deep strikes on Russian territory are carried out by Ukrainian Firepoint FP-1 drones, which with a smaller payload can reach targets 1,500 kilometers within Russia and have sophisticated software that has proved resistant to electronic warfare jamming. Olena Krishanivska, an expert on Ukrainian weapons systems, notes that the FP-1s cost only about $55,000 each and are now being churned out at a rate more than 100 a day. Ukraine is also using the heavier and more expensive Lyuty drone, which has a range of 2,000 kilometers. There are also reports that FP-5 Flamingo cruise missiles have begun to be used. They are much faster than the drones, flying just 50 meters above the ground, with a range of over 3,000 kilometers and packing a huge punch thanks to a 1,150-kilogram warhead. The FP-5 Firepoint uses repurposed Soviet-era turbofan engines, and its carbon fiber fuselage takes 6 hours to produce. Currently, 2 to 3 FP-5s are made per day, with production expected to rise to 7 later this month. Each costs around $500,000. By contrast, an American Tomahawk missile costs 4 times as much, has a shorter range, and carries a lighter payload. At the same time, The Economist notes that it is probably more accurate and harder to shoot down. Rosenergoatom claimed that a Ukrainian drone tried to attack the cooling tower of the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant. In reality, however, Russian electronic warfare systems jammed the drone, causing it to crash into the tower-type evaporative cooling unit of the operating power unit number 6 at the plant. a combat drone of the armed forces of Ukraine attempted to attack the cooling tower of the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant. On the night of October 6th to 7th, in the area of the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant, a combat unmanned aerial vehicle of the Ukrainian armed forces was suppressed by technical means. As a result, after colliding with the cooling tower of the operating power unit number 6 of the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant, the UAV detonated. There are no damages or casualties. However, a dark mark remained on the cooling tower from the detonation effects. The safety of the nuclear power plant operation is ensured. The radiation background at the industrial site of the Novovoronezh NPP and the adjacent territory has not changed and corresponds to natural background levels. Law enforcement agencies are working at the scene. The incident did not affect the operation of the plant. Currently, power units number 4, 5, and 6 are in operation at the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant. Power unit number 7 has been under scheduled preventive maintenance since October 4th. The total capacity is 2,556 megawatts. This is another act of aggression by the armed forces of Ukraine against Russian nuclear power plants. Previously, there were attempts to strike the main facilities of the Kursk and Smolensk nuclear power plant.
Russians now know how does it feel when someone is bombing your country. Such darkness here. The whole district is like this. Residents of Belgorod have been without power for the 3rd day.
Вот так у нас сейчас темень. Вон у людей там свечечки горят. Одни машины светятся. Все темно. Весь район. И в квартирах также.
A new record for strike range on Russian territory. Attack drones flew 2,000 kilometers to hit an oil refinery in Tyumen. The Russians didn't even activate an air raid alert, as they did not expect an attack from such a distance.
Там две скулы.
Две. Да мне вообще похуй.
At a joint press conference with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, the President of Ukraine, responding to a question about whether Ukraine is using its long-range Flamingo missiles against Russia, said that Ukraine would move to detailed public disclosure of our long-range capabilities a bit later, so as not to prepare the enemy.
Kolomoisky, I think that we will move to detailed public disclosure of our use of long-range capabilities a little later. We will not prepare the enemy accordingly for where we are, what we have achieved and what we are using. The main thing to understand is that in recent days, Ukraine has been using exclusively Ukrainian products, not just drones. And from those hits, I think people can understand from the fragments available on social networks where drones are used and where they are not. And I would like to thank not only the warriors, but also the manufacturers who have taken the appropriate steps.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.